So what should you do when people are mad at you? So because I'm an anger researcher, this is a question I get all the time. So I'm going to do a series on it. Here's part one. We're going to start with the hardest because the first thing you should do is ask yourself if their anger is justified. An emotionally wise thing to do is ask yourself if you did something wrong. Maybe they are right to be angry with you. At the same time, keep in mind that their anger may be justified, but they're still expressing it in a maladaptive, problematic way. So maybe they're right to be mad, but not right to express it the way they are. I tease these apart because we can address our own mistakes, even when someone else is being cruel. We can say, I made a mistake and I'll fix it, but you shouldn't treat me that way. So what else can you do when people are mad at you? This is Dealing with Angry People, part 2. You want to embrace what's called a non-complimentary behavior. Stay with me because it's not like it sounds. A complimentary behavior would be if you matched their mood. A non-complimentary behavior would be if you do the opposite of their mood. People tend to match each other's emotions. So when someone yells at you, you're more likely to yell back. That's a complimentary response, but a non-complimentary response would be to stay calm. But if you stay calm and even lower your voice a little bit, they are likely to match that and lower their voice a little bit. You can essentially influence their mood by taking it down a notch. Yeah, so this is a very real thing and we have got to talk about it because not everybody who's mad at you comes at you. Some people who are mad, they go pout, they socially withdraw. And in a lot of ways, this is harder because on the one hand, they deserve that space if they need it. But on the other hand, you want to acknowledge to them that you want to repair that relationship. First thing I would say is find a way to communicate with them that serves your relationship. Text, phone, in person, whatever. Say something to the effect of the following. I believe you're angry with me. It seems you don't want to talk about it. That's okay, but when you are, I am ready. And then know that you can't control them and you've done what you can. Results may vary. Right, so here's part 4 of my series on dealing with angry people. When you talk to them about it, avoid generalizing their behavior. What I mean is, don't say things like, you always yell at me when you're mad, or why don't you ever talk to me about this stuff? What you're doing when you do that is taking the situation and broadening it into something much bigger than it might be. So instead of talking about the situation anymore, now you're talking about a pattern. And maybe there is a pattern there, but it's not necessarily going to be productive to talk about it that way, because you're trying to get resolution on this one thing, not a whole bunch of things. And when you imply there's a pattern, it's easy for them to feel like they're being attacked, and they might put up defenses. Alright, so another tip in dealing with angry people is to know when to disengage. This is part 5 in a series I've been doing. Follow along for more. So when you're dealing with an angry person, there are a lot of reasons to disengage. One is to stay safe, but another is just because this interaction isn't likely to come to a positive resolution. When people get really angry, they're sometimes not thinking very clearly. So you might need to stop just because this isn't productive anymore. And that shouldn't mean you're done with this discussion for good. In fact, you can say, hey, let's come back to this later when we're calm. So how do you deal with an angry text or other electronic message from someone? I got this question over on Instagram and I think it's great, so let's talk about it. Obviously, everything else I've said in this series still applies, but the good news is here you've got more time to think. You don't have to respond right away, so consider your options. You could obviously ignore it or rage back at them, but that might not help, so what else? I'm not crazy about escalating these situations with more aggression. I just don't think it gets us where we want to go. Kindness in response might get you where you want to go, but only if it's authentic, because you don't want to leave the situation feeling bullied and resentful. Instead, I like to ask questions. Non-judgmental, I want to understand your perspective questions. Can you tell me more about why you're mad? How would you like to resolve this? Those questions have a way of diffusing the situation on their own.